Somehow, this feels right. So what's up everyone, welcome to yet another Vyrgilla video here on the channel. I wanted to bring this to you today for a couple different reasons. Number one, Bushiroad is giving us a start deck for Vyrgilla. We'll talk about that a little bit. I've already talked about that previously on Vyrgilla. We're not going to do a cutaway there. Just look up there. We literally talked about most of the stuff that's going to be coming in the deck. But what wasn't announced was one specific card that I definitely do want to go over today. And in addition to that, we are going to be going over kind of the basics of how the deck functions, because I haven't really done a how to play it for this deck. And I already have a couple people at locals that asked me about my build. So shout out to you guys. You'll probably watch this video. Everyone else, make sure you watch this video. Like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, like, comment. So get started. We are here on the official Bushiroad page where, as you can see, we have the Stardust Blade start deck. Is this start deck? Special Series 04, so Special Series deck. Which, basically looking at this card list here, you'll see that it's more or less the same as the Koro deck that I talked about recently, or whatever magazine that was. I just feel like it was Koro for some reason. Like I said, I will go ahead and link that up above where I did a big breakdown of all the cards. But TLDR, we're gonna get the ride line, a couple new cards that basically give you a pseudo Legion Mate strategy, a bunch of things that say you do cool stuff when you discard. Then, of course, we are getting 4 perfect cards, Obadiah, the generic Overtrigger, which, I mean, since we get an Overtrigger, but you don't know how many freaking Obadiahs I have, and no one ever uses this card. Except in Leonord sometimes. Then, of course, you get your 4 copies of Stardust Blade, the win condition for this deck. A randomized trigger, which is something very nice, something that they've done in the previous start deck thing, so I see it again. And this guy, this thing I haven't mentioned yet, re-rate this guy, a Blitz Sorter, grade 2. Let's talk about that. Unfortunately, talking about this nice little Regalis Piece card, I am going to have to jump back onto X Twitter because I'm a couple days late on the daily card reveals to start off with the daily card reveal, so we got to go back in time to their daily card reveal. It's still there it is. We got Union the Sky. It's a grade 2 Blitz Regalis Piece, which is kind of interesting because most of our Regalis pieces so far have been grade 3 cards, and this being a Blitz order, this is what, the 3rd one I believe? Because we already have Twin Cast and what's the big one called? It's on screen right now, the one that reduces crit by cards that got over-triggered or whatever. They're both really good. I mean, so is this. Honestly, before even reading this to you guys, I can tell you right now that in Japan it is popping up in lists all over the place, so really good inclusion just to have this card. Buy the structure deck just for the card. Make sure you pre-order. What's new though? Alright, so we got 2 different abilities. First of all, you pay this cost with CB1 or Energy Blast 3. Draw a card, remove this from game, choose one of your Vanguards. It gets plus 15 for that battle, then bind a card with same card as your Vanguard from Solo Drop, and it gets plus 25 instead of 15. Okay, so this is basically a souped up version of your grade 2 energy cyclers, the one where you guard with it and draw a card. The only difference here is instead of having a 5k shield, you become plus 25 or plus 15 depending on how big the cost you're going to pay. Really good. I don't think Vyrgilla doesn't really have a way to recycle its grade 3's back of drop zones, so you don't care if you just Soul Blast your grade 3 at some point and then activate this thing, mainly because you are going to be Soul Blasting a decent amount of this deck, and well, big shield. If you get that full activation, that's like a 38k guard, which guards against most unboosted Vanguards with Twin Drive. Doesn't guarantee against big combos, of course, but I mean, what does in this game? 25k shield is pretty solid. 15k shield is a basic trigger. So even without the extra cost, you're still looking at paying the cost of the Energy Strider and getting a 15k shield. Very solid. I think this is the reason that there's a lot of displaying it, just because it's a very good defensive option. Let's go ahead and take a look at the second effect. So, auto when discarding this card during the ride phase, you basically pay the cost of Counter Blast 1 or Energy Blast 3 to draw a card and remove this card. This is literally an Energy Cycler grade 2, just as a Regalis piece. I mean, it feels kind of mid to me because you're essentially just saying this is a 5th copy of your Energy Cycler grade 2. However, it's good because it's generic, so you do have 5 copies of Energy Cycler grade 2s. You get a bigger shield off it if you use this thing defensively, and I mean, there's a reason that most of these things are pretty expensive right now. I still need Biscottis. As someone whose secondary nation is Keter Sanctuary, I still do not have the freaking battle system, and they're debatably the most expensive one. So if you want me to stop proxying about $100 worth of staples, make sure to check out my page on TCG Player to help support me on this channel. Or if you don't want to just directly buy trading cards, I now have a Ko-Fi open. Drop on by, give me a tip. All that helps go towards the channel so I get more cool cardboard and do other things to help boost the quality of the channel, like getting new microphones, cameras, tripods, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. Just be like what I do, make sure to drop me a tip on Ko-Fi or check out my page on TCG Player where I sell card game stuff. chill over. But yeah, this start deck is looking to be a very solid pickup. I believe it's probably gonna be around $20 is my guess. You get a full deck. The OT thing kind of sucks, but whatever, what you can do about that, go buy yourself a Dragon Vader or something. And yeah, it's probably worth it just to get the copy of the Unionize the Skies freaking trigger order thing. You know, the one we just talked about. Aside of that, deck is very solid, as you're soon gonna see, and it gives you a nice little boost to a very basic Royal Paladin deck in Dragon Empire. Let's go up to this tab. We're gonna talk about how the deck actually runs. So welcome to Vyrgilla 101. Let's go ahead and give you a nice little refresher on the ride line real quick before we talk about what the deck does. Grade 1, it's like an Alfred. You get +2 power for every card you have on board, and then you can just Soul Blast a ride for free. Grade 2, you're gonna be able to reveal the grade 3 to get a crit on your turn, and then more importantly, when ran over, check your top 7 for a grade 2 card at your hand, or if you're at with the grade 3 Vyrgilla like you should, you just search anything instead. So as you can see, we're going to be very grade 2 centric just because of this ability right here. And this first ability means that if you want to utilize it, you are going to be playing a very aggressive first turn deck. As far as the boss goes, he's got 2 different skills, one using energy, one using counterblast. The energy blast one says that once per turn you could revive a grade 2 unit from your drop zone, and then when you do that you get to bind one of your opponent's cards, so it gives you control and recursion at the same time. And then of course, like any good Dragon Empire unit, he does restand something, this being his on attack skill, counterblast 1, restand one of your grade 2 units. So like I said, very grade 2 centric. We're going to be talking about a lot of grade 2s in just a second, but it's in general, just looking at the ride line, a very aggressive deck that lets you plus by having a field. Like I said, it feels very much like the OG Royal Paladins with like Alfred and Blaster Blade, stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why I absolutely love this deck. As OG Day 1 Royal Paladin player who still has MLB, which I need to do a new deck profile on that because I've been testing out recently. It does really well, but once again, it's missing about $100 worth of cards that I'm currently proxying, so the shields I already did. Of course, Grade 3 Vyrgilla is only half of your Wink Edition. The other half is actually in order. That's right, we're an order-based deck. And that is this thing, Stardust Blade, which looks like a freaking buddy fight impact order. I love it so much. This thing has one very basic but very effective ability, in that you're able to counterblast 1, check your top 7, I believe? It's kind of hard to read this thing because it literally blends into the art. Look at your top 5 cards in the deck, call a card with grade equal to or less than your Vanguard's current grade, and then you get red text that first half it literally doesn't matter until your opponent can retire during your turn. But basically your Vanguard's gonna get plus 3k for every normal unit on your field and in your drop zone. Basically, you are rewarded for fielding more cards. Once again, this is a very aggressive deck. It says play cards on board. You will not be punished because you're gonna be doing combo stuff. And if that aggression is getting punished by things like your opponent trying to counterblast deny you and deny your field presence, maybe control something like that, that's fine. You still get power from cards in your drop zone. And then Vyrgilla Grade 3 is going to be able to resurrect cards from your drop zone. So there is no punish. Just play board, go face, and you'll get there eventually. This thing's especially insane on your grade 2 turn because if you do that crit ability, then you're just a big critty boy swinging in their face when you have a full board to basically get up to like 4 points of damage one turn. Much more if you consider the over trigger that I'm totally not spoiling right now, which I guess I'll go ahead and talk about because it like directly links to why we run this with the grade 3 Vyrgilla. So OT of choice here is going to be your classic Dragon Vader, the one that says that you could restand your Vanguard. Classic Dragon Empire here. Like I said, Vyrgilla himself stands your rear guards, not your Vanguard, so this is going to get more attacks this way. And fun little fact, right here, look at the boy. Tell me where you see once per turn on the second effect, the one that stands the unit. You can do this every time you attack. Rearguard attack, Vanguard attack, rearguard attack, Vanguard attack, so you hit the OT, rearguard attack, and then last rearguard attack. So that's like rear, van, rear, van, rear, rear, 6 attacks on OT turn. Not the best, but pretty good still. Like I said, this is a very aggressive deck, so every one of those swings is going to be mattering, and you're probably going to be pushing your opponent to like 3 or 4 damage before you even get to turn 3. Add that combo in with the fact that you're going to be a big boy Vanguard thanks to your order, and thanks to your grade 2 getting your crit, and you can see why we obviously run the Dragon Empire over trigger over one of the other generic ones. I guess we'll just go ahead and talk about the triggers real quick, so it takes 2 seconds. I don't think effect heals matter anymore, just run normal heals. If anything, maybe the higher grade 1 because Tridexo exists, but right now with the way that multi-attacks happen, these multi-attacks not coming from the same card, and your crits, I mean, unless Ava's prevalent in your area, that doesn't really matter. Just run generic heals, don't worry about it. Rest of the triggers, we run 3 fronts because we got a lot of attacks, and then a lot of crits. Like I said, very aggressive deck. Hit him hard, hit him fast. Your main goal is again to like 3, 4, 5 damage by the time you get to turn 3, and then you just punch face with a lot of big Vyrgilla attacks. You're gonna be hitting this every turn. This order comes to you every turn if you're playing it right. In order to get that order every turn, we do of course run 3 copies of Justina. Spoiler alert, while this deck is pretty basic, it is kind of expensive. There's a lot of good stuff Dragon Empire in here. This is basically our grade 1 clone that says that you could drop a card from hand, take an order, put it in your drop zone, and when you play order that turn from the drop zone, it goes right back to deck. It's more ways to get out your Stardust Blast and then activate Stardust Dragon's ability. It does go to bottom, but you do shuffle after you check your top cards. Really good for this deck specifically. I know you're probably gonna be picking them up for other Dragon Empire decks that care about orders more, but that's a lie because this is a Dragon Empire deck that cares about orders. Of course, this is grade 2 based deck, so let's go ahead and talk about our grade 2s that we're splashing in this deck for the engine. First of all, I already said it's gonna be expensive. We have to run a full play set of Latifa, the one that says that when it's placed normally, you could Soul Blast 1 if you play normal order, check your top 5, superior call a card, or just grab another order. Remember how I said 5 seconds ago that you just gonna be targeting orders every single turn? This means that she go off every single turn. Anytime you play her, you just get activate. I understand Keter pile by looking at non-Keter pile, and because I'll never be able to afford full Keter pile. Then she's got a secondary ability where she powers up based on the number of cards that are in the same column as her. Do you retire yourself, she gets strong, don't worry about it. Makes her a great restand target because she will be one of your power hitters. The more important part is just the consistency of it, the fact that any turn you play this, you're just able to get a free card out. So it's basically a tier 1 special. Speaking of cards I kind of talked about already, we have our grade 2 energy cycler. You know, like the order that we're getting in the start deck or whatever, don't worry about it. Same skill volume, just counterblast 1 or energy blast 3 whenever you use him to guard or discard for the ride line. Draw a card, Nido Mosquito. These are just solid. Always run them if you have the chance, because even if you miss your ride line, use it on guard. Gamble into like drawing a trigger or something like that. You never know. Could be a different set you need to win the game. Then his Persona Ride ability, because these each also have the ability if you Persona Ride that turn. Once again, paying that same cost of your choice of either energy or counter blast, and this time you're able to take a grade 1 unit and call it to the back row circle. Once again, just like Latifa, this is going to be a great way to fill your field. Cool thing with this is just your grade 1 targets. You already saw Justine, which I believe, let me double check. Unfortunately, it won't activate Justine because she only activates when you called from hand. However, let's go ahead and look at our 2 copies real quick. We have our Carbuncle Kitty Cat, which has the ability to move ride line and draw a card. And of course, your girl Shenri, who once again has the ability that lets you draw a card and gives you more field presence. Really good to have 3 copies of it just for that Persona Ride ability. One of the cute things about Kitty Cat is that it's not when placed from hand or anything like that, so you just do it whenever. And one thing I like to do with it is use this guard skill first to get that 20k shield, and then after that use the Persona Ride grade 2 Gunman, whatever his name just was, right up above me. It's literally above me right at the second, to revive it and draw a card. So you will be using 1 card to use 2 effects effectively. Ride line sold doesn't matter too much. Everything in this deck is basically on ride abilities, so you don't care about it once you're done. And by the time you Persona Ridden once, you will have enough soul to activate both abilities. Then to round things off, we got what I like to, well, not rounding things off, look at this. There's, use the Gradius, use the Gradius. You can use basically any Regalis piece you want. I like Persona right in here just because you want to have powerful attacks. Like I said, this is a very aggressive deck, so the more power you can get on your multi-attack, the better. But you can also potentially use the sword to let you draw cards and countercharge. Twin cast, I guess, if you care about defense. The freaking, this is literally one coming out. You forget Trial deck, you know what you're gonna do. You already know I said it once in this video. But yeah, I guess we should talk about the grade 2s in this grade 2 deck. I already mentioned these 2 big important ones. After that, it gets a little techy. Make your choice. I'm choosing to do 2 of this guy Ethan, who after your Vanguard's attack hits, you can put him into drop zone and countercharge 1 and draw a card. You're never really gonna be attacking with this card. He's just kind of there to activate. Basically infinite rival target with Rising Stars Vyrgilla, where you're just gonna revive him, put him back behind as a booster. You don't care that you're not boosting because the order, once again, you just get huge off the order. Then if your opponent takes a hit, you get a free card back and you get a free counter charge, which basically makes his on attack effect free. Really solid. We only really need 2 of these because like a lot of our grade 2 units, we can just infinitely revive them, so as long as you don't damage them both, you're good. To get more on hit pressure and draw power, we run Brachioforce here, who says on hit you're able to retire a unit, then draw a card. This is going to be really good because it's going to be going off from turn 2 onward. Is not grade 3 restricted, just on hit, whatever. So as long as this card is on the field, you're always giving your opponent a choice to let you draw a card and also retire a unit if they have board. It's just solid pressure. And the fact that it retires yourself means that you just call it right back. Don't worry about it, Vyrgilla is actually a Tachikaze deck. I said Vyrgilla is a Tachikaze deck. Alright, so our last boy is a nice little dinosaur promo that just came out in the August-September promo pack here in the US. And while you may think that this card is made for Varga, thanks to its retire-based abilities, or Spino, Commander Rex, whatever the promo dinosaur guy's name is, because it's a retire-based deck, this is a revival-based deck, which means that your retire-based stuff just procs your revival stuff next turn. Anyways, we got two different abilities. First of all, when it's retired by a card's ability, you're able to Energy Blast and draw a card, which doesn't do anything on its own until you keep on reading the second effect and see that when this unit attacks. If your opponent is grade 3 or greater, Soul Blast 1 is plus 10, and then end of turn you retire this unit. Obviously, effect number 2 procs effect number 1 at end of turn to let you draw a card. Cool thing about this, it retires at end of turn, not end of battle. So, Vyrgilla is going to do his thing. And we stand you guy. This is effectively a 20k attacker that attacks twice and lets you draw a card. And you just kind of do it every turn. So that do be the basics of our Cyber Dragon Royal Paladin friend. However, there are a couple of other techs I do want to go over real quick. A couple of options that you can potentially play that I have in my good stuff dragon pile that we've been messing around with. Obviously, a free ride card is Shahib, who's going to be an 11k attacker slash booster, great for early game, and it goes to soul to let you ride for free, so it's a 2-for-1 combo there. I think I strayed away from it a little bit simply because one of your rides is free in this deck, and takes order you are actually praised for having more cards in your drop zone. So you can use it if you want. If you're just looking for power, there's a couple of other grade 2s you could use. This Stealth Dragon is just going to be a 15k attacker, nothing spicy about it, just solid 15, but I mean, you hit numbers when you're unboosted, which is always good. Drag Raider Meathut's an okay tech for a grade 1 option. Its ability lets it retire itself when you restand something to draw a card. Once again, Vyrgilla is going to be always restanding something, just not himself. So you will get a draw card off this, and especially good behind a rear guard so you can boost the first attack, and then he retires himself when you're potentially giving that boosted card more power from triggers. Your FNS is another grade 1 dinosaur that gives you an insane amount of power. Pretty much you Soul Blast 1 when it boosts or attacks, and it gets plus 5 for each of your grade 1 or less units. So really good early game, and if you just have a bunch of grade 1s on board still, make big numbers happen. Defensing Roar, always a solid tech. This is a really good blitz order that says that you can take one of your guardians, bounce back to hand, and you get more shield. You can do weird combos with this, like guardian with overtrigger, then putting overtrigger back in hand, or like a PG and put PG back in hand, stuff like that. You use one of your field cards that you actually care about. It's very diverse, gives you a little bit more shield, and it's nice tech if you have room for it. Coglithan is your other version of the grade 2 discard card for your ride line. It's not quite as good as the energy ones just because the energy is also proc off guard. Once again, your soul doesn't matter too much, so you're fine wasting that resource during the early game. It does save energy a little bit because you will need energy for Vyrgilla skill. And the Counterblast with Sunrise effect to retire one or more cards. I mean, good. Control's always good. Madoka Magica here is a card that punishes your opponent for actually guarding your early attacks, which is great because, once again, this is an aggressive deck. It is a +2, +5 if your opponent has 4 more cards in the drop zone. Then it gets another +5 shield if they have 8 or more. There's a 10k grade 1 that potentially has 10 or 15 defense. Very versatile, and it punishes your opponent the longer the game goes, which is great, once again, in an aggressive deck that's forcing your opponent to guard early on. This has some funny combos with it. First of all, it does protect other units from being attacked, as long as he's just chilling out here, so kind of the pseudo resist if you think about it that way. And then if you're able to do a retire effect while he's chilling on the field, he gives himself and the Vanguard a 5k power up. Pretty basic power ups. Once again, you are doing a lot of retiring this deck. Unfortunately, Vyrgilla himself is a bind effect, so will not trigger this, but if you want to play as a control matchup, go for it. Baxter's pretty cool. And the final one I'm going to go over is another grade 1 dragon, in Static Crack Dragon, who is a free effect that whenever anything's placed the same column as him, that card gets +5. So once again, it's going to be really good for your grade 2s because they don't get power on their own. So it's basically going to mean that you can go unboost on the first attack, swing 15 at minimum, then restand it, give it a boost 23 plus whatever it is. So that has been Vyrgilla 101. And talking about how the trial deck's coming out, make sure you go support your local shops and reserve one of those because the deck is going to slap if you're just going to pick up the Regalis Piece. What do you think about this deck? Is it actually playable for being basically a common and rare ride line? Or are you afraid of playing it because it's still pretty expensive with all the good stuff Dragon Empire you have to play? Do you think it stands a chance as an aggressive pseudo-control deck versus any of the other good Dragon Empire decks right now, especially freaking ninjas? There's literally just 2 ninja dragons that are just dominating everything. And well, in slow play, I swear to God, Shoji is not scary because it's Shoji. Shoji is scary because it's slow. And this is coming from a Direful Doll main. Make sure to comment down below, and while you're down there, hit that little subscribe button if you haven't already. We are so close to hitting 250, and I'm just grinding out a bunch of content right now. I think, like, as I publish this, I just bulk recorded a good 7 videos without even looking at new news or whatever to do more stuff on or doing more remote fights. But I got a lot of editing to do, so until next time, always embrace the infinite. Sorry, you can sponsor me if you want. Such a good drink. Such a good non-caffeine soda.